Ispirazzjoni u esperimenti ma' Angel Gallia.
Nilqakom għal programm ieħor Ispirazzjoni u Esperimenti u l-mistiedna tal-lum Trudy Kerr hija preżentatriċi fuq ir-radju u televiżjoni flimkien ma' hija wkoll kellima f'avvenimenti live, kellima motivazzjonali, fundatur, preżentatriċi u produttur ta' The She Word, atleta, vjaġġatur u awtriċi. And basically, you have so many hats and you're such an interesting person and I think you inspire a lot of people. And so thank you for coming here to inspire us more.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great invitation.
Thank you. And this is a woman who is super busy and she has found some time to talk about herself because you always interview others and we want to know about you now. What is it that makes you tick? Ħankun qed nitkellem bil-Malti u bl-Ingliż biex inkunu nistgħu insegwu wkoll. You have over 20 years of experience in design and communication industry across 4 countries and 3 continents, from strategy to hands-on design, creative direction to media production. You have graduated in Colchester. Maybe this is something that our audiences weren't aware of. So how has this whirlwind of a career landed you on our beautiful islands? How does this happen?
Well, the career didn't.
You did.
I did. I was a graphic designer by trade in the UK, the US. I'd worked in Australia as well. And I actually met someone who was in the process of moving to Malta. I came along and in October in 2005, I landed in the Maltese Islands for the first time. I got on a catamaran. I sailed up to the Blue Lagoon, to Camino, dropped anchor for 3 days, and I fell in love with the Maltese Islands.
Aww.
And absolutely just was blown away. I'd never, in all of my travels across the world, I'd never come across anywhere like Malta. And so the career came second. The wanting to make Malta my home came first, and the career came second.
And you are one of us now, so we are very proud to call you sister. So that's really nice.
Thank you. And just to say, you know, I do speak Maltese, but very le mhux problema imma bil-mod ħafna diffiċli ħafna, and I have a problem raġel mara. Sometimes kelba mhux problema iswat soda alish. You know, for someone who's trying to understand the masculine, feminine, yes. It's really hard. So that's...
It's not an easy language.
Oh my good grief. It's incredibly difficult, but it is on the list of things that I want to keep developing and working on.
And we like listening to people wanting to come here because we get to appreciate our islands from someone else's point of view. So never take that for granted, Maltese, okay? So we have a beautiful island, according to Trudy Kerr, and that's not no one. So I'm going to go through all these different hats you wear because you're such an interesting person. So you went from marketing and strategy. You've been head of marketing and strategy with Corsa, where you were instrumental in building their global presence, and that takes a lot of foresight and creativity. You came up with like half marathon, triathlon, challenge Malta audiences. I know that you're an athlete. Maybe you could guide us, talk to us about that part of your life.
Well, 2010, I had a horse riding accident. I had 2 brain hemorrhages and a ruptured spleen down in Madtap.
Wow.
And from that, I got accident-related epilepsy. And it was my choice from that not to take medication. I could manage the seizures. I'd get about 70 seizures at a time. And fortunately for me, I'd get them once a month or maybe once every 3 weeks as a result of the brain hemorrhages. And I knew nothing about epilepsy. And quite frankly, I'm very blessed that I didn't research it because I decided not to take medication. They were simple partial seizures, so I didn't lose consciousness. So I decided that instead I would take up running. And I was heading towards my 40th birthday, which was 2000 and, what am I saying? It was 10 years ago, 2014. And I decided to apply to run the London Marathon, which was on my 40th birthday. I'm from London. I wanted it had been a lifelong dream to run the London Marathon. And I said, why don't I apply to run the London Marathon? And through the training for the marathon, I actually inadvertently cured myself of epilepsy, which has no known cause. And so running and athletics is an ambiguous word, to be honest, because what I do is long distance running, trail running, but it gives me the opportunity to be out in the country, enjoying the environment. I mean, just this morning I'm out at Mistral, I'm taking my dog, my Tau Fennec, I'm out enjoying, and that's training for me, and it's just beautiful. Yes. So it's meditation, it's training, it's health, and as you hit 50 you want to keep pushing on those things, because you know that it's that, you know, age is increasing. But at the same time, so do the challenges, and nothing seems to stop me from going, I know, let's do another crazy race. There's something else I should do.
Yes.
So that's that part of it. So when I got involved with Corsa a number of years ago, it tied together the marketing media side of my career and also the sport that I love.
It's amazing. So li qed tgħid Trudy kella incident fejn ħabtet rasa u kella xi kella ftit kif taqbad tgħid sara f'moħħha, imma bil-ġiri setet teliba. Ġifieri mhux di xi ħaġa li għandha tispirana kemm lili u kemm lil-semmija li aħna naraw persuna bħalek mhux talli ma qtajtx qalbek, talli għamilta anke parti mill-karriera tiegħek. We can follow your marathons, you post online and it's quite inspirational. Even for, you know, sometimes we say, because it's our age, we're getting older. I'm not much younger than you. I'm 40, almost 49. So there you go. And you think, maybe it's too late for me. But no, there should never be any reason to stop you. And that is inspiration in itself. Our Maltese audience have been listening to you on radio, on XFM, even on RTK you've been as well, and now on your very popular podcasts. I'd like you to tell us, first of all, what inspired you to go on podcasts, and then we'll go through the different podcasts you've had and you have currently. Because I think podcasting, and you were one of the first, if not the first in Malta, is a medium that is very interesting and intriguing for young people and everybody else.
Well, let me go back one and tell you that I started actually with radio on One in 2013. I was given the opportunity to be a co-host on a radio show. I'd never done it before. That's not what I said at the time. I might have told a white lie. When I say a white lie, quite a big lie.
A very, very wide white lie.
Exactly. And I had the opportunity to do that. So I was with One for 4 years. I also presented about 250 TV shows and produced another 200 TV shows on One. And that's where I got my experience. I said, okay, this opportunity has landed in my lap. I'm going to do it. And rightly so, then, as you said, I went on to be the drive time DJ on XFM
very
for
popular.
4 years, which was great. It was great for an English speaking. It was the only English speaking show in Malta. And I learned so much. I had such an incredible experience doing that. And then, unfortunately, COVID hit and had a very huge impact on XFM. And I found myself without a job. And it was my Friday co-host, Tez, who said to me, why don't you podcast? She said, I've seen this thing abroad. People are podcasting. And my passion is interviewing, is doing exactly what you're doing now. I love it. I love hearing people's stories. Everybody has a story. Every single human being on this planet has a story that is interesting. You might not think it, but you do. Yes. And it's a case of the interviewer to find that interesting story exactly and pull that out. So I started podcasting in 2020, at the end of 2020. And you're right, there was very few people doing it. I think there was myself, and then John Malia started a little bit after me, and then we kind of been there since the beginning.
Definitely,
and watched
very well followed.
Well, I've watched the evolution of podcasting, and I've learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes,
but from those you learn and improve.
Absolutely.
I think that's how you improve, by making the mistakes and being hands-on and reflecting on it. But I'm very happy that you said that when you interview, you are amazed by the stories of every individual. Because that's how audience can relate, how you can inspire, how you can motivate, and you are quite a motivational speaker, even just by talking to you. And I think with the subjects that you chose for your podcast, I want to believe that you have made a difference for especially the women in Malta, to speak up, to speak out about what they're going through. I'm just going to say some of it in Maltese, very briefly. Mish problema, grazzi. So, bdiet fuq One TV, fuq radio, fejn għalet dik il-gidba zaħira ħafna, fejn li kienet l-ewwel darba li kienet fuq ir-radio, imma minn hemmhekk talmet ħafna anke produċiet programmi televiżivi fuq One, imbagħad daret fuq XFM fejn kellha Drive Time u kien programm bl-Ingliż għamlu 4 snin, biss sfortunatament bil-Covid mhux kollox seta' jżomm. Kien hemm ħafna tibdil, speċjalment fil-medja lokali, u hemmhekk teżara u xek też tata l-idea u bdiet il-podcast. And I think as a medium it suits you to a T. It's really brings out, you shine. Really, you shine because we can see your face. Yeah. As well, because you also film it.
Yes.
And that on social media is important, to see the person interviewing, not just the person being interviewed. I want to go to the program Empowered. It was a bi-weekly podcast back then. And what were the stories that we're trying to capture? What were you trying to offer to the audience?
Well, it came from, just to go back a little bit, the first podcast that I did was called The Interviewer, which I still do. If there's someone that's interesting, I will interview for that show. And then I was approached to do Empowered with one of our beautiful jewelry brands here in Malta. And that was the story, really interviewing women and the story of women. You know, women are the worst with imposter syndrome. Women really do feel that they are insignificant and they don't feel that they have something to tell.
Yes.
And after about 3,000 interviews I've probably done over TV and radio and podcasting, every woman has a story. There's always a story, and we can empower and see other women through these stories. And it was one such show that then led to the She Word. So I was interviewing women talking about setting up business. It could be anybody. It was just specifically women, and asking about their stories. And it was that show that then led to what is now the She Word. That was not a televised, as you said. I mean, it's very important to say that when podcasting started, it was only audio.
Exactly.
And a lot of people still listen to audio, but for our audiences to give them the choice between audio and visual, we've seen a huge change in the way that media is communicated, and the visual is extremely important because people want to see the face behind the voice that they're hearing. So it was the last podcast or one of the last podcasts of that show was Maxine Aquilina.
Yes, a very beautiful woman as well. And
absolutely.
She's an actor, she's a presenter.
And I contacted Max, who is a very good friend of mine, and by huge coincidence, it was her mum that found me after the horse riding accident, and it was her mum that saved my life. Wow. So we have always been intrinsically connected. We both married Adrian Attard, so there's so many things that we have in common. And I said, Max, come on the podcast and come and talk about being an actress in Malta. And she said to me, I've just had a miscarriage. She said, can I come and talk about that? And I said, of course you can. So we sat down in the studio. I recorded it. I videoed it as well. And the podcast went out. And she spoke about something that I didn't even know about. But she spoke about it so sensitively, but openly.
Yeah, which is missing a lot.
Absolutely. And it went out and we had 40,000 hits in 48 hours. Yes. And the local media picked it up as well, because this is a topic that women don't talk about. And suddenly my eyes were opened to how much we as women don't talk about topics that are specific to us. And this is no discredit to men, because
no.
men also have subjects that are specific to them. But I don't know about them, and I cannot speak with them with authority. But being a woman, I know quite a bit about.
Exactly.
So that was really the birthplace for the next podcast, which is what we're doing at the moment, which is the she word.
The she word. Before we talk about the she word,
Absolutely.
is a very amazing project as well as the tagline that you have chosen. The Interviewer, where you have a range of interviewees from politicians to pop stars, men and women. So how do you select? How do you approach that? What is your take on that?
Well, that was where everything started for podcasting. But now, because the she word has taken off so much, the interviewer is really something that I do when I have the opportunity to interview somebody with a story.
Exactly.
And somebody that comes across my path, and I say, okay, you may not fit into the topic of the she word, and in actual fact the she word is 4 women sitting around a table with a glass of wine or a coffee, and the interviewer is the one-on-one, which is what we're doing now. So when I come across something and I say, okay, I need to interview this person, for instance, we just had an influencer come down for the she word event, a beautiful amazing lady called Danae Mercer Ritchie, 2.5 million followers. I've invited her back. I want to find her backstory. Her backstory is so amazing that I want to engage with that. I want her to have the platform to share that. So that's really what the interviewer is. These days, it's just when I have the opportunity to interview someone who's got a story, man or woman, old or young, whoever it is, that I think is something that cannot not be shared, it has to be shared, then that's where we go to that platform.
About what you mentioned, it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
So what is the magic there? Well, how do you feel when you see a person on your own and you have just, because with the she word, as we will be talking about, you have four women and they're discussing a topic. When you have that person just for you and you have them, what is your mindset? How do you set up questions?
Well, let me tell you, I'll give you an example. I interviewed with John Malia, and this was, I think it was earlier this year, and I'd been wanting to interview John for a long time.
Yes.
Busy guy.
Very busy.
Our paths hadn't crossed. But in the process of researching John for the interview, I finally got him to say yes. And we set a day, and researching him, I was totally flabbergasted by his past, and there was so much of his past that resonated with my past that I could ask him questions with some understanding, with some lived experience, and knowing a little bit about what he was talking about. And the interview I thought would be about an hour long. It ended up being 2 hours 45 minutes. Because I kept saying, oh my word, I need to know more about this. Okay, he's giving me an answer. And I'm like, no. Stop there. So generally what happens is I research, I script, I ask the first question, and everything else goes by the by. Because I'm so interested and intrigued by people's stories that he may say to me, and usually this is the case. Someone will say, oh, I went to prison. I did a bit to help with inmates, young people, and then he moved on to the next thing. And I'm like, whoa, stop a second. There is a whole story
there
right there in that sentence, and we quite often don't realize how important these small things are. But then when you investigate, why young people, why prison, why disadvantaged, what did you do with them? Well, what he actually do is he taught them hip hop.
Yes.
And so investigate, what, why? So everyone has a story, and it's a case of just I'm curious, I'm nosy, and I'm really honored when someone shares that information with me.
Yes, and I think audiences can respect, can feel more at ease listening to stories, and I think you reach them better through a story, and a real life story like that. I mean, you've mentioned one of our biggest personalities now, John, but any small story, it could have been anyone. You just happened to mention such an example. So I think that is the power of us talking, you know, two heads talking together. I'll just translate this a bit. So minnaħa taħħa Trudy bdiet fuq l-interviewer, issa aktar tard nitkellmu fuq the she word. Bl-interviewer tikkomunika ma' persuna, tintervista persuna waħda li tkun taħseb li l-istorja tagħha hija affaxxinanti, tressaq għalej l-udjenza u kulħadd għandu l-istorja tiegħu. L-istejjer żgħar li huma interessanti u ta' min li jismagħhom. Min hemmhekk ukoll kellha empowered fejn kienet qiegħda tintervista nisa u kemm kien rat il-bżonn meta ġiet mitluba biex tippreżenta tal-programm, rat il-bżonn li n-nisa nisimgħu l-istejjer tagħhom ukoll. U fosthom kien hemm l-artista, l-attriċi, preżentatriċi Maxine Aquilina li tkellem fuq korriment li kienet għadha kif għaddit minnu u fetħet ħafna u minn hemm indunat x-following kbir kella minħabba di l-istess storja u dik ħaditha għal program The She Word. So we land nicely on the She Word. So the format of the She Word is different. You were already mentioning for women, like chatting across a table with a coffee or some wine. And why that format? What is appealing about it?
So I went to a friend of mine right at the very beginning of the conversations about the she word. And I said to my friend, Samantha Swamro-Bedo, I said, I went round to see her. I said, Sam, you've got a history in media. I said, and she also has a foundation called the Olwyn Foundation that is specifically designed to help women. She lives here in Malta. And I said to her, I want to do this show. The women coming back from this interview that I had with Maxine was saying, I had a miscarriage 20 years ago, or my sister has had a miscarriage, or my mum had a miscarriage, or I've had a recent miscarriage, and I feel seen.
Yes.
Because we're talking about something, there's a lot of shame that's related to a lot of topics that concern women, and one of those being, for instance, miscarriage. And we were sitting at her kitchen table, and Sam and I were just talking away. We were sitting at this kitchen table, and I said, I think we need to have 4 people. I'll host it, and we have 3 guests. We have, wherever necessary, we'll have somebody with expertise, and we need lived experience. And I said, but where are we going to film this? And she said, well, it needs to be relaxed, and it needs to look like women would be sitting there talking about this topic naturally. And I said yes, as if we've just come in and sit on somebody's conversation. It's not a to-camera piece, it's a conversation between women. And literally, I just sat there and had a light bulb moment. I said, can we do it around your coffee table that we're sitting at right now? And you should have seen Sam's face was like, this could be interesting. And so for the first 2 seasons, I actually filmed around a kitchen table.
Yeah.
Now, as the show grew, this became a little bit of a nightmare for my video producer because of the echoes and because of bits and pieces in the background and so on. And then we had a young women's edition that was filmed in a studio. I worked out that the lighting looked great, the girls looked great, and I wanted that. So now we film in a studio, but it's actually a music studio. It's not even a videography studio. It's not a photography studio. It's not a filming studio. And we sit down beforehand, we have makeup done together, we chat, and by the time we get in front of the camera, the 4 of us, or the 3 women and myself, we're actually best friends.
Bonded already.
Absolutely.
Yes, because of that communal experience.
Absolutely.
Because the act of having your makeup done is not just beautifying, it's relaxing, it's giving you a bit of pride in yourself, which sometimes is lacking in our daily life. So yeah, I can understand that, being a woman myself.
Yeah.
I really like the tagline, conversations women really should have, but rarely do.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you go there? Why do you want to show that more?
Because we don't talk about topics. At the same time that all this was happening, I discovered that I was entering the menopause.
Yes.
And for any woman who's younger than menopausal age, it is the gift that just keeps giving. It really is an experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah.
Perimenopause.
Perimenopause. Absolutely. Menopause. And I had, at that point, never heard the term perimenopause. I'd gone through the whole 7 years of perimenopause without knowing that I was in it. And when I went to ask about menopause, people were kind of ashamed to talk about it. But you know what? And I'm using this as just one example. Menopause, if we are lucky to hit our mid-40s, if we're lucky to get there, perimenopause and menopause is going to affect every single woman. Not some women, not a percentage of women, every woman in one way or another.
Exactly.
And yet we don't talk about it. I didn't know what the symptoms were. I didn't know how long it was going to last. I didn't get any hot flushes or sweats. What I got was excruciating pains in my muscles, fatigue, change in hair texture, collapse of the muscles in my feet. We don't talk about this. We don't talk about this because there's shame in it.
Yeah.
Because it's an aging process. But you know what? Why does that make any sense? Why does that make sense? When we're all going to go through it, why don't we talk about it?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's exactly why the strapline is there. It's conversations that we really should have, but we rarely do. Yeah. And so we've been very, very blessed to have talked about menopause, pregnancy, postpartum, depression, separation and divorce, dating, parenting, single mums, working mums, stay-at-home mums. And then now in the season that's coming out now, we've been a little bit bolder. We're going to be talking about addiction. We're going to be talking about domestic abuse and violence. We're going to be talking about falling and finding love. We're going to be talking about happy topics, how to style yourself. But we're also going to be talking about very serious topics as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I have to be honest with you, I've had a very long life of experience. Yeah. And I'm not a parent. It's one topic that I don't have experience in. But having done the show, so much respect for mums. Oh my word. Not to say not dads, respect for them too. But anybody who's been a mum, who is a mum, incredible respect for them. I've learned so much, but a lot of the show is also reflects my lived experience too.
Exactly. And I think it does a lot of good when you start conversations take you to the next level. My show is very short, I'm afraid, and as much as I love listening to you, as much as the audience does as well, it has come to an end. So I'm gonna recap all this beautiful talk and then talk about your next step, and that would be it. So f'xi word hija ħasset il-bżonn li ikun tip ta' show li ikun hemm 4 nisa qed jitkellmu madwar mejda fuq topics li huma ma tantx nitkellmu dwarhom għax hemm ċerta mistħija li s-soċjetà iso twarrabhom u ma tantx tħallina nitkellmu dwarhom bħal menopawża, korriment, separazzjoni, topics iktar serji bħal violenza domestika, separazzjoni, dawn affarijiet li aħna għandna bżonn nitkellmu iktar dwarhom. U naħseb I think it's very beneficial when conversation starts to be had, because without that you don't progress, you don't reflect, and conversation that is honest and open and out there. So what's your next step?
To be honest with you, we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
Very good. Well needed.
We start this month, September, and we are hoping to be publishing a show every week until at least the end of next year.
Very good.
We have live events that we're going to be also doing, and my concentration, I was looking at other things. I mean, I also present events around the world as well, which is why the she word gives me the flexibility to do this. But until we have talked about every single topic and every single woman has been reached and every single woman has been validated and felt like she has been seen, I want to keep doing what we're doing.
nawguralek ħafna ħafna ġid fis-soċjetà, fimtni? So I would like to commend all the good work you're doing, and it is so beneficial for our country.
Grazie.
And you're one of us. So now we welcome you with big warm hugs. Grazzi ħafna tal-ħin tiegħek, Trudy, mens l-onur tiegħi li kont hawnhekk, u grazzi lilkom eżis semmija tal-li segwejtu Ispirazzjoni u Esperimenti. Islim.
Ispirazzjoni u Esperimenti ma' Angel Gallia.